What's up, everybody? So today, I wanted to talk about the purpose of this video wasn't to when I started to do the analysis for this. The purpose of this wasn't to kind of talk about sports card investors or anything like that. It was to do my analysis. So I was the way that I do it is I look at my collection 2021, compare it December of 2021. This time I was going to compare it against December of 2020. So a year's worth of data. I look at my collection, I see which cards by percentage have gone up the most and which cards by percentage have gone down the most. And what I didn't expect was to come to a conclusion that sports card investors, all of these channels that have popped up over the last year or two due to the pandemic, I think are leading collectors astray. And it was interesting because when I look at the results, because the way I look at it is, okay, so 2020, the pandemic hits, so many of these YouTube channels start popping up. Everyone's giving really, their advice. I don't know how much they know about collecting, but they seem to know what they're talking about because they have a whole team of people behind them. They have a database, a warehouse worth of data, and they are talking about that, here's what you should buy, here's what you should sell, and, so on. And I'll give them a pass for 2020. If you made recommendations, if you're a sports card investor channel and you made some bad recommendations, that's fine. But now that we're 2 years in, these sports card investors continue to do the same things that I've seen from the very beginning. So what I keep seeing these sports card investor channels doing is they keep pumping modern cards. They keep talking about the same cards over and over and over again. They keep talking about LeBron James and Zion Williamson and and then lower name players like Kobe White and maybe they'll talk about Acuna and Soto. And so they talk about, for the most part, modern players. There's a very small handful of, legendary GOATs that they'll talk about. And so the thing, it seems like everything that they're focused on in terms of what you should buy and what you should sell is based on a very small group of players. And I really think that it's leading people astray, and it's gonna long term it's gonna be a really bad decision. And it's actually kind of scary when you think about, especially if there's the collectors, which I think are going to be doing really well long term, by the way. And then you have these sports card investor, people that have gotten into collecting for the investment purpose of it. I think that they're going to be in, long term, they're going to be in some serious trouble because what I'm seeing in the analysis of my collection, at least, is that the cards that are going down the most are modern players, as you would expect. Of course, guys that maybe didn't have a great year in 2021. But the cards that are going up the most are a huge percentage, at least what I'm seeing, a huge percentage are Hall of Fame cards at mid to lower grade, vintage cards that, and I think what's happening is that, when these sports card investors, when they're looking at their database, they maybe have like 0.5% of all the cards that are out there. Let's be honest, it's probably less than 0.5%. But they're looking at, let's say, 10,000 cards in their database. They are not looking at so many different cards. Like even like a Willie Mays, 10th year card in a PSA 5. They aren't looking at that card to see if it's going up or going down. They're just looking at the modern cards, what's seen as hot, and looking at, whether it's going up or it's going down. And I think there's a huge blind spot that they're missing here. And it's kind of scary and nobody's calling them out on it. And if you look at any of these channels, again, they're doing the exact same thing at the end of this year. All of their hot cards are hot cards from the players that they watch, and all of their cold cards are all the cold players that they watch, that they've pumped earlier in the year, that are now going down. And so let me just show you just some examples. So here are some cards for me that have gone down this year. So Gleyber Torres, not a surprise. He had a tough 2021. Joe Carter, this card's not down much. It's down 6% for the year in a PSA 10. You got the Mattingly card in a PSA 10. This card is down 13%. This is number 8 on my list of cards going down. Not down much, down 13%. Now, again, I'm looking at December of last year versus December this year. And I'm seeing a 13% decrease on the Mattingly. Mattingly card went way up in 2020. Same with this card, the Canseco. This card went way up. And these are, the Canseco and Mattingly are examples of two cards that would probably be in, a sports card investor database because they're so popular. LeBron, which was mentioned on a lot of sports card investor channels. This card for me is down 17% for the year. Now, you remember the market went crazy in March. I'm kind of discounting that. I'm just looking at December and December, 2020, 2021. How did it do? So this card is down 17%. Walker Buehler, who I mentioned in the previous channel, he was just a card that was hot. I think he pitched the game where the Dodgers were eliminated this year. Not a big difference. Again, this card's down 39%. So I guess that's a big, $60 to $36. Cody Bellinger, another modern player, not a surprise. He's down 55%, had a really tough year, from a $140 card to a $63 card in a PSA 10. Not to pick on him, but another Gleyber Torres in a PSA 10. This Chrome card is down 61%. At number 2, down for the year, Pete Alonso, down 70% for the year. This was like an $88 card. Now it's around $26 in a PSA 10. And then number 1 in terms of cards going down is the Mike Trout opening day in a PSA 10. So those are the cards going down. And if you've been paying attention to, sports card investor channels, that shouldn't be a surprise. These are guys, Trout got hurt. Pete Alonso was hot, for a long time. Gleyber Torres had a tough year. But what I think has really jumped out at me for this video were the cards that went up this year. It is actually kind of crazy. And, I think what the problem is, when you look at hot and cold cards, right? So if you look at what's hot and what's cold, if you're looking at only a 1 month period or a 2 month period or a 3 month period, it's always going to be a modern player because that modern player got hot for a particular time or got really cold, got injured, and the card went up, way up and way down. But if you look at it for the whole year, what I'm seeing at least is that these vintage cards continue to go up. And these are all vintage cards that are not in any sports card investor database. So Satchel Paige, this card is up 98% for the year. I had this as a $350 card. It's up to $700 in a BVG 4. So that's at number 20, up 100%, basically doubled. Here's a perfect example of a card that will definitely not be in any sports card investor database. So this is a Whitey Ford and it's BVG 7. I guarantee you, I don't even need to look it up. This is not going to be in any database yet. And I say yet because I do think that the sports card investor databases will get there and they will start to see some of this. But by then it might be too late. But anyway, so this card is up 106%. This went from a $32 card to a $66 card. So up, doubled. Here's another card. Ernie Banks, PSA 5. Again, not a card you're going to see in any database. This card went from an $86 card to a $177 card, up 106% for the Ernie Banks. Joe Torre. This card is up 116% from a $37 card to an $80 card and a PSA 8. Beauty of a card. The cool thing about all these cards is they're such great cards of, Hall of Fame type players. The 1966 MVPs in a PSA 7, really cool. Frank Robinson, Roberto Clemente. This card went from, I had it as a $12 card, went up to a $27 card. That's a 125% increase. All right, next group here. Nolan Ryan. This is a card that is up 128% from a $295 card to a $675 card. Duke Snyder, PSA 5, went from a $22 card to a $52 card, 134%. You guys see where this is going, right? These are cards that, obviously Mariano Rivera didn't play this year, but his cards went up, and nobody's really mentioning it on any of their investor channels. 140% on the Mariano Rivera. Chris Chambliss, good luck finding this card on any one of those. This went from a $17 card to a $42 card. And it makes sense. Like, this is a PSA 8 of a 1972 card. Chris Chambliss was a great Yankees. This is his rookie card. Look at that. Beautiful condition. And you can still get it. I think I would still be bullish on a lot of these cards. Like $40 for this Chris Chambliss and a PSA 8. Like, why not? 1972 tops. So, I think that, if I'm making recommendations, I'm going for these vintage cards because they have very little downside. The floor is really high, but the ceiling's really high too. So this is like the first card on the list that, shouldn't surprise you. Shohei Ohtani, $51 to $127, 150% increase on the Shohei Ohtani. Let's see where we at here next. Let's see. Here's a card that I've talked a lot about, the Hulk Hogan card. Now, this card got some love on some of the sports card investor channels. This card is up 150%. Tom Brady, of course, a modern card that's gone way up to no surprise. He won a championship between December of last year to December of this year, and he's, possibly win an MVP. So, of course, he's on here. But here we go. Tom Morgan has outperformed Tom Brady. This Tom Morgan I had as a $240 card, was recently sold for $675, 181% increase. Two Willie Mays cards back to back, 1964 Willie Mays in a PSA 4. This card is up 185% from $150 to $50 to $143, and then this card is up 181% from $150 to $430. So, Willie Mays, like all of these great legendary cards are going up in value. And here's my top 5 for the year. Who would have thought this would be a top 5 card for the year? Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. I had this as 46 in December of last year and has recently sold for $133. That is a 190% increase. Stan Musial in a PSA 6. This card went from $75 to, there was a sale recently for $225. That is a 200% increase on the Stan Musial. I thought this was funny. And again, guys, I'm just looking at percentage. I'm not looking at dollar value or anything like that. And these cards, they're not as exciting. They're not going to go up. Usually they wouldn't go up, to this extent. But, this is a high grade guy that, everybody talks about the Mendoza line, which is like batting 200 in baseball. So that's, where the significance of this guy is. But I had this as a $12 card, recently sold for $41. That's a 237% increase on a Marriott. Look, it's cool. 1975 tops, PSA 8.5, like high grade. You can get this card for $41. And just such a cool card. It has like some significance. And then my number 2 card is Willie Mays, 59 tops Willie Mays, from a $44 card to a $185 card. That is a 316% increase on the 59 tops Willie Mays. This is a Willie Mays from the 50s. that you could still get for under $200 in a PSA 3. And then finally, number one, I have Shohei Ohtani from $135 to $630, a 366% increase at number one. So now, one of the things that I'll mention is that my collection is very baseball focused. I have added a lot of non-baseball stuff over the last year, but you can see here, you get the idea of what what I'm getting at. There's a lot of this going on where when people are looking at the database of what's available on the Sports Card Investor, the Card Ladder apps, which don't get me wrong, guys, I think that eventually they'll be really good services, and they do serve a good purpose if you're looking specifically to buy those cards and you have no interest in vintage. But if you are specifically looking, at a sports card investment standpoint, and you want, one day to sell off your sports cards, I think you're being led astray if you continue to buy these modern cards that in, short term, sure, they'll go up a lot, they'll go down a lot. But even over, if you just expand what you're looking at, if you expand the chart to a year, the problem is those databases don't have Mario Mendoza 1975 tops in a PSA 8.5. They're not looking at that card. So they're not going to be able to tell you that card is up. What do we have? 237% for the year. They don't have the database to tell you that. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you got something out of it. I guess at the end of the day, just collect what you love, but don't collect, and definitely don't collect based on what these sports card investment channels are talking about, because you're going to get burned long term. And this is something I've been talking about for a long time is, modern cards, if you're going to collect the modern cards, collect the greatest. Collect guys that have a chance of being the greatest of all time. And because if not, they are going to be, the next Juan Gonzalez. So you guys can look it up. How much does a Juan Gonzalez cost? Juan Gonzalez was a fantastic hitter in baseball. And you can get his cards, whatever you want for like $20, PSA 10. And there's guys like that, throughout baseball and football and hockey. Like, you have to be one of the top 3 players in your sport for that generation to have any long-term value. So the next time you buy a Bowman Chrome Auto refractor, blue parallel for $1,000, maybe rethink that. Maybe buy a Willie Mays card, maybe buy a Willie Mays card and, or a Cassius Clay card, as I recently bought. Buy unless, that's your team and, you don't care about whether it goes up or down. In that case, everything that I'm saying, don't even worry about it, because, you're collecting for the fun of it. Then, obviously don't worry about it. But if you have any interest, like if you're like me and it matters to you, like if I'm going to spend $1,000 on a card, I want to make sure that it's going to have long-term value. So I collect because I love collecting, but I also want it to have some sort of long-term value, So anyway, hopefully that means something to you guys. And again, I want to say that I do think that these sports card investing, like I like what the attention that it's brought to the hobby, and it's had lots of pros and lots of cons. But you have to be very, very careful of what you are listening to. And so just be careful out there, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts below. And I will talk to you later.